growing up didn't know. So I have some scars here and there from acne. But I'm telling you, don't touch it because you have bacteria. By popping your pimple, you are pushing the bacteria deeper into your skin, which causes secondary infection. It's a no-no, okay? So for bacteria, going back to the difference between us, eukaryotic cells, and prokaryotic cells or bacteria, are the fastest cell that divides is your skin cell, and it takes a good 30 days, okay, for your skin to completely shed and recycle. Now, for a prokaryotic cell, they're small, they don't have a lot of DNA, they do not have a lot of genes, they have very simple structures, internal structures, and so for them, bacteria, when they carry out replication, it's faster than you and I. For them, they can reproduce every 2 days. 2 days, they reproduce. Within a month, you got like 1 trillion of the bacteria. So, but unlike animals and plant cells, with bacteria, there is only one. There's only one area of replication. There's only one. That's it. Now, this is bacteria. This is bacteria. This is you and I, eukaryotic replication. See? You and I, we have one, for example, okay, one. We have 2 locations. We have multiple locations of replication. Bacteria, 1. Where does it occur? It's called the origin of replication. So there's a dot here, and it starts opening up. Replication occurs this way, and a replication occurs that way. One location. Now, if there's only one location, would it be slow? The answer is no. It's still faster than you and I. Ourselves. It's still faster. So therefore, for bacteria, they don't need multiple replications areas. They just need one. That's it. And that's all they get. Now, bacterias, they do not have as many enzymes to check for mistakes. They don't have a lot of enzymes to check for mistakes. And so, because they reproduce very fast and they make copies, they replicate their DNA very fast, there is a higher rate of frequency of mutations. So therefore, bacteria, they mutate much faster. The same bacteria that we discovered today would be different next year, 5 years later, 10 years later. They mutate all the time because it's much easier for them. There is no DNA polymerase in bacteria to proofread, to check for mutations. Okay, guys? I hope that makes sense. Okay, now, here's another one. Now, most of the replication that occurs in animal cells, in bacteria, is very smooth, right? Usually there's very little error. Now, so here you have your chromosome here. You see the chromosome? This, if you can visualize this, this right here is half, and it makes another copy of the other half. The other half is right here, and it's attached right here, right? It's attached right here. The centromere, okay? The centromere, let me change color. Centromere is right here. So this is one half, and that's the other half, okay? The other half is on this side. Let me change color so that you see what I mean. This is the other half, all right? The other half. So now all this occurs during the S stage of interphase, okay? Interphase. Now, which occurs 90% of the time. Now, here's the problem with mitosis. That's why this is the problem why old people, we have more disease and we get sick much easier, okay? And why we age, we get wrinkles and things like that. Now, here's the reason. Now, when a cell replicates, that means it makes copies of its DNA. When it gets to the end, let me clear this up. When it gets to the end right here, when it gets to the end, the tip end of the DNA, what happened is it stops replicating. It stops. So we call these regions telomeres. These regions right here, telomeres, this is telomere right here, the red at the end. Replication does not go all the way to the end. Instead, it stops almost at the end. That's it, it stops. Now, when you're healthy, when you eat healthy food, there's an enzyme. This enzyme right here, telomerase. Okay, this enzyme. Telomerase is an enzyme that fills in DNA at the end. So when you're young, you have this enzyme. Telomerase, and it fills in whatever the replication does not do. So, okay, let me highlight it so that. Okay, let me highlight it so you can see it. All right, let me go back to the pen. Yeah, so when you're young, this enzyme, it takes DNA and it fills in the missing DNA at the end. It fills in the missing DNA at the end. So when you're young, you don't get sick very often. You have great immune system. You don't have a lot of mutation. Everything is fantastic. But as you get older, or when you are unhealthy, okay, you're unhealthy, you have problems, right? Because you eat unhealthy food. This enzyme, they turn off. They turn off, okay? Often turned off, okay? When it turns off, what happened is, you see these telomeres? It doesn't get filled with DNA. So what happened is, this region of your DNA becomes defective, okay? This area becomes defective. This area becomes defective. This area becomes defective. This area becomes defective. And it's no longer functional. Now, every time the cell cycles, you lose a little bit of DNA. So here is your DNA, and then you lose a little bit. Every time your cell divides, you lose a little bit of DNA. You lose the telomeres, okay? You lose the telomere. Eventually, you lose so much that you lose more DNA than you want. And so what happened is, if you happen to have a gene that is important in this area, what happens? You're in trouble. You get cancer, you age, and you have genetic defects. And that has been proven by Harvard researchers. They say one of the causes of aging is excess sunlight, poor diet, lack of exercise, telomeres. Okay? So, telomeres has been known to cause cancer because these regions here that you lose as you get older, they don't get replaced. Okay? Versus when you're young, you have this enzyme, telomerase. And telomerase fixes it. So your DNA is always spotless. It's kind of like polish. It's kind of like a brand new car. And then it goes down here. Okay, guys? Questions? Does that make sense? People? All right. So, genetic disease, people, sometimes, I'll tell you this. This is a few chapters ahead, okay? Let's say a person is born without any genetic problems, right? No disease, nothing, when you're young. But as you get older and older, all of a sudden a genetic defect all of a sudden pops up. It could be like an autoimmune disease. It could be because of some kind of maybe skin problem, eczema. It could be because all of a sudden you get all these weird symptoms. Your skin begins to dry up. It's scaly, all sorts of stuff. It's because the telomeres, okay? The telomeres. It turns on and off. So the way your DNA works is if you abuse your body by food or let's say you don't exercise, you don't have enough Sunny D, these enzymes, they turn off. And if they turn off, that's not a good thing. You don't want them to turn off. You want them to stay on. They turn off to conserve your body. When your enzymes feel like your body is being threatened or their survival is threatened, they shut down. But when it's kind of like a tree, fruit trees. When a fruit tree feels like it's going to die, it flowers and then it produces the fruit so that it can spread the pollen to stay alive. If you keep on watering your fruit trees a lot, they don't produce flower because they're spoiled. So they're like, oh, the owner, Johnny Appleseed farmer, Farmer John will give me water all the time, so I don't have to flower. So the key to living things like plants is to don't water them. Water them maybe once a week, twice a week. That's it. Or water them every day, but little bit of water. That's it. Let them starve. They're more likely to produce sweeter, more fruit trees. Okay, guys? All right. I hope that makes sense. People, is lesson